Hey everyone, I wanted to dig into the fourth section of the course, which is on socialization. You will notice that when you download the presentation from Scholar, that there's more slides in this, but I just wanted to hit the highlights in this video. And for longer details on all the concepts and all the slides, please read the longer, much more extensive reading and lecture notes that I've posted on the Scholar page. But socialization is the process of learning. You know what socialization is, you just haven't used that concept before. But when we think of socialization, it's not just sitting in a classroom and learning concepts like this or, listening to a lecture. It talks about, socialization is covering our whole lifespan. We are socialized from the moment that we are born. We are continually re-socialized throughout our life. And this is how we learn social skills. Like, for example, it's how we learn to speak our language. We aren't born with the innate ability to speak our language, to know what words mean, to apply words to objects and emotions. We learn that. And we learn that through various social interactions. A lot. The primary way in which socialization begins is with the family. In fact, family is the primary agent of socialization until you enter school, and then school becomes a big part of the socialization process. But it's not only in addition do we learn, social skills, we learn how to read and eat and speak language. We also learn how to perceive our world. Socialization is how we learned, what is good, what is bad, what is moral, what is right, what is wrong. All that kind of stuff happens in the socialization process. And that helps explain why individuals tend, get to a point in life where they have very different perspectives from others, because socializations happen within the social settings that you're exposed to throughout your life. So individuals that have been exposed to different agents of socialization are going to be socialized differently and have different perceptions of the world, and acquire social skills differently, or acquire some skills that others don't get. Now, socialization is how we create the self. And what that means is essentially think of it as the things that distinguish you from somebody else. And socialization is how we do that. How do we acquire our traits, our behaviors, our attributes? It's all through socialization. And you kind of come back to this question a lot in this section of what makes me unique, what makes me different. And socialization is the process in which you begin to form a unique self and recognize how you differentiate yourself from others around you and others in your social settings and in the culture in which you exist. And the terms agent socialization and anticipatory socialization, you can read through that extensively in lecture notes in terms of examples and what they mean and their importance. But just recognize that socialization first begins the second we're born. And we're going to talk about that a lot in the gender socialization piece. The second that you're born, you probably had a hat put on you by a doctor or a nurse, and that hat was probably pink or blue. It was meant to symbolize your gender. Now, that is gender socialization and socialization happening at second one. That is you already as a newborn infant being socialized into that. Pink represents girls, boys represents blue. Now, of course, this is completely socially constructed, right? There's nothing inherently more manly or womanly about blue or pink or any other color. However, you are learning right away about the social world that you're entering when they put that hat on you and say, hey, you're a boy, here's a blue hat, you're going to like blue things. And you practice in the first section, learning how your preferences are shaped by your social settings. And it's easy to think about that. As you were a child, if you were constantly being told, hey, you're a boy, you like cars and you like things that are blue and you like X, Y, and Z, you probably formulated preferences around the color blue, around toys that were symbolized to be toys for boys. On the other hand, if you were a girl, you probably had preferences for toys that you were taught were proper toys for girls. This is socialization at work, and it also shows the relativeness of this idea that we've socially constructed these meanings, and we are teaching you it from day or even second one. Now, as I mentioned before, even something as crucial as our language, we acquire in the socialization process, and this should sound obvious, but I don't think we realize how fundamental it is. For example, if you saying the word ball, if I say the word ball, you probably are thinking of, oh, a football or a baseball or something of that nature, but you can see it, you can see the image in your head. However, why do we call a baseball, right? We socially constructed language and said, hey, here is the word for this round object that's white and it's got red laces. You then were taught that, and so you're socialized into what words mean and how to apply words to objects. You can think about all the array of physical objects around you right now and think, oh, I at one point in my life learned that this is the word for the wall. And when I know what a wall means, however, we often don't think through why did we use these? Why do we create words in this way? Why do we socially construct? Why isn't the wall actually? Why don't we use the word table for that? Right? And what led to that? Now, beyond just the idea of words for physical objects, you also learn about abstractions, like just the simple ideas of being happy and being sad, being excited. Those kind of abstract ideas, once again, we learn in the process of socialization, but also the words for them. When you first felt, what we define as happiness. When we think of being happy, when you get A at the end of this course, you're probably going to be happy, and the word for that. That what you're feeling is happiness, but you didn't always know that. You weren't born with that ability. You had to learn. That feeling may have been within you, but you had to learn it. But you can even stretch it farther and think, well, I also am socially influenced in terms of when I am happy or not. For example, why are you going to be so excited? Why would you be happier to get an A in this class versus a B? Well, because we have socially constructed that A is a symbol that you worked harder, you did better, you're more competent, and so it's going to be a symbol as you move on to employers to see, like, look at the kind of college student I was. Can you imagine the type of employer I'll be? So that is going to then trickle down to a feeling of happiness, and you learn the socialization process, what that feeling is, when you should feel that way, and the word that is used to define that feeling. Now, the looking glass self is a really, really important concept, and I've got much more extensive writings in the reading lecture notes about it and videos you can watch about the historical origins of this. But this is this fascinating ability of us as humans that when we start to be able to use the reaction of others as a mirror for ourselves. And this really becomes fundamental in just developing our concept of ourself, is interpreting how others respond to us. If you think of yourself as, hey, I'm funny, that's who I am, I'm a funny person. Part of that is probably because you say things that you think are funny, people laugh, you then interpret their laughter back onto you as saying, oh, I am funny. Look, they laughed at what I said. And so essentially you're using them as the mirror for yourself. And on the other hand, if you think, oh, I'm funny, and you say something and the person is clearly aghast, that's where you say, oh, what I just said wasn't funny, it was offensive. And you're able to interpret the reactions and tell that, and also develop that self-concept. So I'm either, from one example, oh, I'm funny, they laugh. On the other, oh, I said something offensive, I am not a good person, or I was ill-informed on the issue that I just spoke on. Now, this is all, of course, socially constructed as well, and I won't keep harping on and on with that reality, so I think you can kind of get the rhythm of that. But you can just think about how so much of how we determine ourself and our identity, we like to think that we're independent arbiters and independent evaluators of who we are, but we rely so much on those around us to define ourselves, to influence our self-concept, to determine if we're a funny person, a happy person, a mopey person, a sad person, whatever it may be. And that's what the looking self is really getting into. When we have this ability to be able to detect how somebody else is feeling and then use that reflection to reflect on us and define ourselves and our self-concept. So hopefully those terms make a little more sense for you now. I'll pick up with the remainder of the big, my major takeaways here in the second video in a second. So, hope you all are doing well.